네, 안녕하세요. 카플라 TV 시청자 여러분, 제임스입니다. 7월 23일 금요일 이제 오후 3시 38분인데요. 조금 아까 제가 오늘 날짜로 그 EDD 텔레컨퍼런스, EDD 주하원, 또 주상원, 또 EDD 직원들하고 이제 매 2주마다 하는 텔레컨퍼런스에 대한 내용을 제가 이제 참석을 하고 이제 내용을 올려드렸는데 거기에 제가 이제 참석한 부분에 대한 Q&A 이제 질문과 대답 섹션에 있는 그 오디오를 제가 이제 녹음을 항상 하는데 그거를 제가 오늘 여러분들이랑 같이 쉐어를 해드릴게요. 네, 아까 제가 올린 영상은 30분이 넘게 길어져 가지고 26분이 이제 돼 가지고 제가 요 녹음은 제가 따로 올려드린다고 말씀드렸으니까 요거 여러분들이 한번 직접 들어보시고 여러분들의 궁금한 점 여기서 답이 좀 나왔을 수도 있으니까 잘 들어보세요. 네, 감사합니다.
Next, we'll open the line of James on. Your line is open.
How you doing? My name is James. I'm from Miguel Santiago's office. I have a few questions. The first one was kind of alluded to earlier regarding the quarterly wage check, which started, I believe, beginning 7-3 or 7-4. A lot of folks are calling us pending, and it's the liaisons have been pretty effective in clearing those, just kind of right then and there. Is it something that if can be done by the claimants actually using the contact us feature on their UI online programs, such as where's my payment? I think if we kind of let them know to do that on their own, it might kind of take the workload off of us a little bit. So that's my first question. The second question is regarding the conditional payment program. I did go over your news release that was released yesterday, and on the sixth paragraph, when it talks about as long as they've cleared ID, as long as they're ID okay, and they've cleared the fraud filters. I was kind of curious as to what those fraud filters were, because I'm pretty sure you guys aren't going to give this CPP eligibility to everybody. A lot of people are now finding that they're pending, pending determination interviews because they didn't report their earnings from, the last, during the pandemic. Are they going to be, qualified for CPP if they had able and available issues? I think that one's a little bit simpler because that might have just been like a biweekly certification issue. And then for those that are not being automatically extended into the PUI extension automatically and are, even though we've uploaded them into CMS, a lot of the PUI extensions are not happening soon enough. So will those folks also be? I'm assuming they're not going to be paid if they don't have a claim balance because their PUI extension hasn't been activated yet. And then my last question is regarding overpayments. I really appreciate you guys putting out this news release, especially when it talks about overpayments. For the first time, I think EDD's kind of put it in layman terms as to who's going to qualify for an overpayment. Previously, you guys were using words like in good conscience, and so I forgot what the other phrase was. But yesterday, it basically says if you're demonstrating any financial hardship, and if the overpayment was not due to claimant's fault or due to like blatant fraud against the state. I'd like to give you one example of what's being experienced by a lot of our constituents in Koreatown, Los Angeles. A lot of the folks here are IHSS providers who work for, who take care of a live-in dependent, such as a family member, mom, dad. However, simultaneously, before the pandemic, they were self-employed. They owned businesses. They were, gig workers. And so when they thought they were applying for a PUA claim, at the end of April, they were actually put on a regular UI because they had UI wages, even W-2 wages, even though because they were performing this work for a live-in dependent, they were not deducted for SDI or unemployment tax. So when they called EDD and some of these agents, they asked the agents, do I need to report my IHSS wages even though I'm taking care of a family member? They were told that they would not have to because that was not considered income. So a lot of these folks, collected upwards of $50,000 to $20,000 during the pandemic. And because of these quarterly wages, a lot of them are now pending eligibility interviews. And as it relates to overpayment, because these were not things that were necessarily the claimant's fault, they were given misinformation by the department, and they're obviously, I mean, I don't know who's not experiencing financial hardship right now, but if they, you know, they do qualify for those two things, will these overpayments be considered by the department? And who makes the decision for the overpayment? Like, who's going to be the proctor in deciding, okay, these people are, you know, in good conscience, or these people are not? Is it going to be CUAIB, or will it be the actual, will it be the EDD? That's it. Thank you.
Thanks for those questions, James, and appreciate you kind of digging deep into our news reviews, news releases, I apologize, and other publications. I think people have found them really valuable, as kind of illustrated in your question, and appreciate the feedback too. So your first question was about those individuals who may be on PEUC extension or PUA extension, and we need to identify if they're still eligible for that or eligible for a regular UI claim. And appreciate that your liaison and others have been working quickly to get those resolved in the system. That's something that we're also shared as well. Constituents can contact us directly with the feature that you talked about in UI Online, which we've made significant updates to in response to feedback from constituents. They can send us a message. There's a contact us link, and one of the options is payment questions, and then they can select where's my payment. And that is a queue that we work directly and answer any questions that someone may have about their payment. If an individual prefers to contact us, they can also do that. We work those kind of in the order, the oldest first. And so there's many ways for individuals to contact us to get that resolved quickly, and we are working as quickly as possible for those individuals who choose not to contact us, in addition to all the resources that you've kind of shared too.
So sorry, Quinn, not to cut you off, but so it is, they can use contact us, where's my payment, to clear their quarterly review pendings for like 7.3 and 7.10 were the two big weekend things that were pending. So is that a good feature to use, to contact us?
Yeah, and I would expand that too and say anytime that someone has a question about their pending status and thinks that something else maybe is missing on their claim that shouldn't be, that is the best probably resource for them to use. And we do have other resources as well. Thanks, James. And your second question was about our news release, and you had a question specifically about what we mean by IDOK and fraud filters. As you know, and we probably shared a lot on these calls, there was significant fraud perpetrated against all UI programs across the country, and we implemented a number of fraud prevention efforts to address those. One of them was adopting ID.me to verify individuals' identities. Another one was adopting a recommended feature vendor from law enforcement officials called Thomson Reuters, and they do a secondary review of the claim to see if there are any potential fraud issues, like multiple claims filed at the same address, those kinds of things. So if an individual passes those two things and has received a payment on their claim, that's kind of what we're speaking to in that press release.
Okay, so going back to my last question regarding the non-reporting of earnings, such as this IHS's case, but there are a lot of people who did not report partial income from their W-2 wages because they thought they were applying for a PUA, and now they're finding themselves kind of pending. Will those folks be cleared and be considered eligible for the conditional payment program as well?
And that is probably a question I would ask, and maybe if I could broaden it too, James, because we are seeing and reviewing the determinations our office is looking for, people who have not reported earnings, not only potentially those people you were talking about, but others. Augustine, is there anything you could share about those payments for that group?
Yeah, so if, sorry, to answer the question, if a person was in, they fall into the same category. So if a person was in CC status and they were receiving benefits when the issue was detected and they were then put on their benefits were stopped pending the determination of eligibility. If we still haven't adjudicated that issue within 14 days or so, then PO they would get paid pending the decision, so they would receive benefits. And regarding your question on the overpayments and determinations, when we're looking at cases like this, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at, we look at them on a case-by-case basis. So it's an individual decision of eligibility based on the information that we obtain from the claimant. So if we do find that there was no fault and there was no fraud, then we do consider the overpayment waiver criteria to see if the overpayment can be waived. The determination of eligibility is one piece of that. That's the first part, to determine whether or not there was any issue of eligibility. And a lot of these people, like we mentioned at the beginning, a lot of these people who are pending eligibility decisions, if they are found eligible, their benefits are just going to continue. There's not going to be any reason to review any further. But if they are found disqualified, then and if they receive benefits for the period that they were disqualified, then we would look at setting up an overpayment on that if there is fault or fraud. If there isn't, then the second piece of that is that we would request additional information from the claimant to determine what kind of hardship this would create, and if it meets the criteria for waiver, we would waive. So this is done by the department. If the individual disagrees with the decision made by the department on either the eligibility determination piece of it, or if they're just in agreement with that, or they understand that, but they disagree with the overpayment portion of it, and they feel they do meet they should meet the waiver, or they feel that they were not overpaid, then they definitely have the opportunity to appeal. And then at that point, it would go to the CUIB, and the CUIB would take a second look at that. And if they find that there would be a hardship, or that there was no fault or no fraud or whatever the case, they would bring that decision back to the department, and we would abide by it. So I hope that clears it up. And I would just want to add one more thing on the question regarding the buy claims that are going, the claims out where the claimants, the quarter change, or their claimant is exhausted, so they need to file a new claim. We are running automation, like I mentioned earlier, and we are clearing the ones that we feel that they don't have a potential for a new claim, so that way they don't have to take any action, and they should receive notification on those. But if they do, then they should get a text message indicating that they need to file a claim. So one of the, if they have that, then one of the recommendations is that they go onto the UI online and attempt to file a claim, because at that point we can clear those up pretty fast. And if we find that they don't have enough sufficient wages to file a claim, then we'll do an IE claim, and the case will be closed, and they will continue to receive benefits. If it turns out that they need to file a claim, we'll file it for them, which is probably similar to what the liaisons are doing. And just to report to you on that, on our claim filing, when people are going on UI online and filing claims, we're only 3 days out, so we're looking at claims that requests from 7/21, and our current volume was at 30,000 about a week ago, and right now it's only down to about 7,000. So we're getting through these really, really quickly. So that would be my recommendation as well.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Augustine. And James, thanks as always for your question.
Thank you.